So Data Republican published this. Major breaking. International actors are involved in the State Department-led color revolution. Well, there is a phrase that gets my attention. We're going to watch this. This is like a 5-minute clip. This is not speculation. It's a recorded call. Ex-USAID employees describe how, before January 20th, they moved internal groups off government systems and into encrypted signal chats, and then quickly linked with foreign partners and NGOs after the inauguration. Well, we knew they were doing that, but for them to admit that on tape is a holy fuck. This attempt at Korean color revolution isn't new news. It's part of an already reported notice earlier this year. Right. This was the notice article that I always refer to. This one. Notice. USAID. Trump fired them. Trump fired them. Now they're plotting to stop him. Former USAID and State Department officials worry about the future of democracy, say they're actively organizing to resist Trump inside and outside of government. And then my favorite quote. Some of the democracy building experts President Trump fired this year from USAID and the State Department are now reapplying the skills and knowledge they built up over decades to undermine Trump's power. For years, these officials were stationed across the globe, actively supporting opposition movements to overthrow governments. Now they've got time, a network of former colleagues, and a growing sense of moral indignation. Take it from those who worked in authoritarian countries. We've become one. Break open the autocracy to democracy playbook. This is the open your butthole. We've called you an authoritarian. Now we get to open you up. There's Democratic backsliding. They were so quick to disband USAID, the group that supposedly instigates color revolutions. Look how they stick in the word supposedly. And then he says, but they've done a very foolish thing. You've just released a bunch of well-trained individuals into your population. If you kept our offices going and had us play solitaire in the office, it might have been safer to keep your regime. So they admit, there's no fucking supposedly here. They're admitting what we do is overthrow governments when we declare them an autocracy. We've declared you an autocracy. We are well trained to overthrow governments. So with that background, okay, but what's not reported is the internet. I'm returning to Data Republicans. Here's her tweet on this. Is the international aspect. One participant explicitly frames it as a global anti-authoritarian movement connecting U.S. officials with colleagues from around the world who have dealt with this directly. They refer to coordination with Johns Hopkins. I'm sure it's going to be Johns Hopkins SAIS, the School of Advanced International Studies. I betcha. Tie my arms behind my back. Have me fight these people one-footed. I already know it's Johns Hopkins SAIS. I know exactly. Remember, we've done a million things on that. International democracy and conflict space. I mean, this is basically teaming up with foreign governments and the international node of State Department USAID funded NGOs to do a transatlantic flank attack against the United States. Same thing I've been talking about for a decade. She asks, at what point does this become treason? There's always patience as I pull this thread together. So let me just see what the source video is here. She usually puts that at the end. Bum, 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 bum. Oh, this is a long thread. All right, this is juicy. Well, I listened about 2 minutes to this and went, holy shit. Get me the Attorney General of the United States. I'm just going to read what it says before we play this 5-minute clip, and I'll annotate it. Timeline of government and USAID community actions. Let's get some names. You get your badge, Mrs. Officer. All right. Timeline of community and USAID actions. Does it say Van, she, her? Pre-organizing by OTI. How many people know what OTI is? We've talked about it before, but there's a little bit of a deep cut. OTI is one of the worst places in all of USAID. That and the whole of the DRG, Democracy, Rights, and Governance, is, like, bar none, the most aggressive, awful, destructive part of USAID. OTI stands for Office of Transition Initiatives. And I'll pull up a little bit of color on that so that you can understand what they mean by Office of Transition Initiatives. But I'll give you the quick and dirty of it. Remember what transition means. Transition means overthrow your fucking government. This is the USAID branch that specifically activates every time we want to overthrow a government. Because remember, sometimes USAID just wants to put pressure on. Sometimes they want to get a certain bill passed or a certain bill not passed. They want a certain person installed. They want a certain deal inked. Sometimes they want the whole enchilada. They want full-on regime change. And that is where OTI activates, the Office of Transition Initiatives. Democratic transition. Remember the open your butthole, Democratic backsliding video we did. Transition from autocracy to democracy. Okay. And the LG, so pre-organizing before Trump's inauguration by the specific wing of USAID dedicated to overthrowing governments and the gay and transgender group, LGBT, by the resource group. On Trump's inauguration day, one of the 200 executive orders was to stop foreign assistance. Kind of. The USAID shutdown wasn't announced until February, a month after. But there was pre-rumblings. First week, threatening emails, decapitation of agency leaders. Decapitation. Decapitation. This is the kind of language they use to justify decapitating you. This is just firing people. Stop work order website and signal groups went live. Okay? So this is like a violation of the National Records Act, isn't it? To do official business on Signal instead of on your USAID.gov or text message or your work phones. Weekend of February 1-2, we started using signal groups for the democracy assistance community. Strategic disinfo against USAID escalates on X. Uh-oh, that's me. I was the guy. I was the guy on X. I got, I think, 400 million impressions, 500 million impressions that month, February, on X. That was my second Joe Rogan hit then. That was like the biggest month ever. Of course, they have to call it strategic disinfo to justify attempts to censor it. This was all true information. Anything that humiliates them, that reveals their crimes. February 4th, global USAID staff put on admin leave, including ethics lawyers, HR, and security. February 5th, first protest organized by USAID community. Doing what they do best, a trained dog that you teach to bite intruders. They are now calling our own democratically elected government, won in a landslide election at the Electoral College, won the popular vote, won the Senate and the House, a clean sweep. They admit they're the ones organizing the protests. Great. March 18th, judge finds that dismantling of USAID likely in violation of Constitution. Okay, all right. So this is what they have on the screen. Now let's listen to this lady and then let's look up some stuff about her. Okay. Linda says just transition initiatives. All right. Let me just load this up. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Let's listen.
That quick recap of what is that timeline. So for the U.S. Agency for International Development, just to put it into scope and scale, it has been around for more than 60 years. It has had bipartisan support.
Sorry. Been around since 1961. Bipartisan support, as we've covered, for obvious reasons. It serves the Chamber of Commerce, the Republicans.
Bipartisan support. It has had earmarks in every budget. So this was a well-established agency of some 10 to 14,000 staff, $40 billion in procurement every year. We had all read Project 2025. We were somewhat prepared for this administration and in other ways not prepared at all. So Ahead of the inauguration, some groups, such as our Office of Transition Initiatives,
Unbelievable. Ahead of the inauguration, the Office of Transition Initiatives. Holy shit.
which works specifically in countries and places that are transitioning from uh,
How do I say this nicely? Notice the big pause. Look at this. Look at this. Look. Notice how she's like biting her thumb. She's like, how do I describe what we do so this doesn't look like treason? See, yeah, it's a funny thing. The Office of Transition Initiatives, well, I can't say that we're the bureau within USAID that specifically overthrows governments, because that would kind of make it a little fucked up that we're the ones organizing the resistance, because it would make it look like we're trying to overthrow our own government. So how do I put this nicely?
perhaps
How do I say this?
authoritarian governments, or wartime into more peaceful and structured, hopefully democratic governments. OTI has been a major player, so they pre-organized because, as Danielle said, they had organized during the previous Trump administration to respond to threats to our U.S. democracy.
Did you hear that? She said not only did OTI, the regime change arm of USAID, pre-organize ahead of Trump's inauguration in 2025, but they were also the ones organizing to subvert the Trump agenda during term 1. Red alert! Danger, Will Robinson. USAID files OTI. Get every fucking communication of every single person at OTI, not just during the Biden term, not just 2021 to 2025, 2016 to 2020. Every communication of everyone at OTI. What you just heard is treason. What you just heard is explicitly outside the mandate of USAID. The taxpayers who pay USAID's $45 billion fucking budget. We're paying USAID to stop the agenda of the president the taxpayers voted for? That is an incredible revelation. I mean, obviously, we knew it. I've talked about this a million times, how Norm Eisen praised USAID 1.0, and USAID 1.0 completely ran roughshod over the Trump administration. The shit in Brazil, the censorship industrial complex set up to help Lord Voldemort, Alexandre de Moraes in Brazil, was done under Trump 1 by Trump's USAID, but he did not know it because it was an independent agency, not on the National Security Council, with no effective oversight. But here she admits, and it was localized within OTI, the worst branch of USAID. Now, before, let me give you guys a little bit of context here. Office of Transition Initiatives, New York Times, I think it was 2014. There's a great article here that's just good background from the horse's mouth, okay? From the New York Times, the whitewashers par excellence. Okay? These are the people who fucking love USAID. And here's what they had to say about OTI. I'll send you guys the link right here. Secret programs hurt foreign aid efforts. In the New York Times opinion page, December 2014. Now, this is right after the Zunzuneo scandal got busted. There's a world of difference between American foreign assistance programs that openly support democratic development and the type of clandestine operations aimed at regime change that USAID has been running under the guise of democracy promotion programs in Cuba. It ain't just Cuba, buddy. That's USAID fucking everywhere. But, of course, this was right after the Cuba Zunzuneo op was busted. So saying there's a world of difference between what USAID is supposed to do under foreign assistance programming and clandestine operations aimed at regime change. Those programs are not only counterproductive, they abjectly violate Cuba's sovereignty. They undermine American interests in Cuba's slow but steady political and economic transition and endanger the legitimate missions of USAID. USAID was created in 1961 to help the United States win the hearts and minds of citizens in poor countries through bribery and economic coercion. That's my editorial. As a Cold War policy tool, the agency was at times used as a front for CIA operations and operatives. Oh, wow. At times, yeah, understatement of the fucking decade. Among the most infamous examples was the Office of Public Safety, a USAID police training program in the Southern Cone that also trained torturers. Yay! USAID training people in the art of physical torture. Ain't shit changed. In the 21st century, USAID has overcome its tainted legacy and undertaken humanity. Press X to doubt. In the 21st century, USAID has overcome its tainted legacy. And this is what people are always like, oh, USAID had started with noble intentions, then went bad. And I always need to remind people, no, it fucking didn't. It was set up as a PSYOPs assistance unit for the U.S. Special Forces and Central Intelligence Agency. When John F. Kennedy was engaged in the Small Wars reorganization of the U.S. military. 2 weeks before USAID was created, he gave the Special Forces the Green Beret. Right away in the 1960s, it was funding drug cartels in Vietnam and Cambodia and Laos. It was buying planes to smuggle drugs for CIA-backed hillside guerrillas. Right out the gate. It runs democracy promotion efforts from Afghanistan to Kenya, building political leadership capacity. Grooming politicians as vassals through financial bribery. Electoral education, telling people who to vote for, i.e. rigging the political systems. And judicial reform projects, i.e. taking control of countries, courts, judges, and prosecutors, like we did in Ukraine with the $1 billion USAID grant that was used to bribe the government of Ukraine into firing the prosecutor, Viktor Shokin, who was investigating Burisma. With little controversy, because no one like me was around with a giant-ass megaphone publishing all their dirty little deeds. It is when USAID undertakes discrete regime change operations that it runs into trouble. Indeed, its Office of Transition Initiatives now seems to be competing with, or at least complementing, the CIA on high-tech propaganda and destabilization programs. Okay? So let's just highlight this section. When USAID undertakes discrete regime change operations that seem to be competing with or complementing the CIA on propaganda and destabilization programs, that is the Office of Transition Initiatives. Now, it's rewind time. Let's play that back.
So, ahead of the inauguration, some groups, such as our Office of Transition Initiatives,
the Office of Transition Initiatives, which competes with and complements the Central Intelligence Agency for propaganda and destabilization programs,
which works specifically in
how do I say this without saying it? I don't want to say that it actually is a CIA front for overthrowing governments.
Countries and places that are transitioning from perhaps authoritarian governments or wartime into more peaceful and structured, hopefully democratic governments. OTI has been a major player, so they pre-organized because, as Danielle said,
OTI has been a major player, and they pre-organized to stop the Trump administration. The major player organizing within USAID is the one the New York fucking Times calls USAID's version of the Central Intelligence Agency that competes with or complements the CIA on propaganda and destabilization programs. And they're the ones who were organizing protests, destabilizing protests against the Trump admin.
They had organized during the previous Trump administration.
So this same one organized to subvert Trump from within, from 2016 to 2020. As we've covered, for example, USAID funded OCCRP, which dug up the dirt on Rudy Giuliani to use to impeach Donald Trump in 2019. That came from USAID.
To respond to threats to our U.S. democracy.
That's just so, that is so criminal. That is so fucking criminal. Our professional class of regime change specialists openly on tape bragging about how they use their special set of regime change skills to take our taxpayer money. Their paychecks come from us to overthrow the government we elected.
Also terribly organized that I'm proud about is our Gender and Sexual Minorities Employee Resource Group. Now,
what's interesting is, okay, so she refers to the LGBTQ Employee Resource Group and the whole Office of Transition Office of Transition Initiatives. I'm making a note for this for when I talk to White House folks about this. It looks like it wasn't just the OTI Employee Resource Group. It looks like it was the whole fucking senior leadership on down.
Our cautious community and well prepared for, we saw the writing on the wall and the attacks that were already happening during the election cycle. And so we had already moved our group away from the USAID main systems into Signal chats.
They'd already moved. When they started to see the way the election was going to go, they already moved their communications off of formal FOIA-able or internally searchable by the Trump admin communications and into Signal chats. That's got to be illegal. Well, I'm pulling up some of these links that you guys showed. I think you're trying to do this, right? Local. Okay, so what I'd like to do, I'd like to look up, is it a criminal offense for USAID employees to use Signal chat instead of official government communications systems when they are, let me move this up a little bit so you guys can see what I'm typing. When they are on in the office, on the clock, and talking about using or talking about using taxpayer resources within USAID employee networks. If so, what crimes are entailed there? Is it, for example, a violation of the National Records Act? What requirements does the National Records Act put on USAID employees as opposed to state? Because it's a little weird, right? USAID is just a little bit of a weird agency that way because it tries to be, independent. You can't FOIA shit out of there. So I wonder if there's like a carve out, because it is the CIA. It's like FOIAing the CIA. So I could see there's different rules for the CIA than for a different agency in terms of records retention, because they need to maintain plausible deniability. So I just want to see what AI assistants have to say about that. But let's keep going.
To protect our community there. January 20th happens.
To protect your community from the voters, from legal reform and review by the voters. Okay, so inauguration happens. Let's see.
Inauguration. One of the 200 executive orders was to stop foreign assistance. So that was a 90-day pause on all funding. In addition to that, I think we're well aware of that there are other executive orders to stop DEI programming, which affected a large number of our awards immediately. So
you don't say. The DEI cuts hurt USAID disproportionately. You don't say.
In that first,
but remember, DEI plays a special role in USAID. If USAID wants to overthrow Cuba, DEI programs in Cuba will let them network with the Afro-Cuban community. If they want to back Lula over Bolsonaro in Brazil, and the black demographic supports Lula disproportionately, DEI programs in Brazil let them build up the capacity of those pro-Lula voters. Same thing with DEI programs in Bangladesh or, ethnic minorities in Kenya or Nigeria or the Balkans. So these DEI programs are not just like standard wokeness with USAID. They'll apply them globally to work with a coalition of the fringes to overthrow any functioning, relatively homogenous government.
First week, we experienced a lot of threatening emails across the staff, a takeover of what was it, DEIA Truth at opm.gov, which was unusual to have centralized emails sent to all government staff.
Unusual because USAID is usually completely quarantined, like the CIA is. USAID is not on the National Security Council. Doesn't move through the National Security Council coordinates all the different national security and foreign policy related agencies like the State Department, the CIA, the Department of War, but not USAID. So it's this is why the Department of War says they like to work with USAID for special forces work, because USAID is protected from the interagency knife fight. So it's unusual. We heard the voice of the White House telling us what to do. We don't normally have to answer to what the voters say, even though we're all funded by the voters' money.
And then many staff who are under a particular hiring mechanism in that first week were immediately put on furlough or laid off. I am
Hell yeah.
a part of that hiring mechanism.
I am a part of that. Van. So Van was laid off. If I'm reading that correctly.
Then within that, at the very beginning of, I think over the weekend of that first week, our senior staff, including our general counsel, were put on administrative leave. So
yeah, because they're corrupt. This is your lawyer covering up your fucking crimes. We obviously want a new fucking lawyer.
We leave. So we had decapitation of the agency leadership. But as I said, we were responding quickly, and immediately we had what's called the USAID Stop Work Order website and signal group.
Website and signal group. See if you guys can find it.
Was stood up. This was done by a longtime implementing partner who are strategic communication.
This was done by a longtime implementing partner. She's going to say Stratcom. How many times have we talked about Stratcom as being the heart of darkness for all this? These are the disinfo propaganda specialists. This is censorship squad. Let me hear that again.
Implementing partner. This
was done by a longtime implementing partner. So is it going to be Chemonix? Is it going to be the National Endowment for Democracy? Is it going to be the IRI? Is it going to be NDI? Is it going to be First Draft? These are all very, very common implementing partners for USAID.
Who are strategic communications specialists and
who are strategic communications specialists. Just make sure I'm getting this quote.
They went and moved immediately to start gathering
And they went and moved immediately to start gathering
people, creating community, collecting.
Start gathering people, creating community, and gathering information. Okay, so this is like all the Stratcom shit is CIA shit. It's all destabilization, control over the information sphere. This is gold. Kudos to Data Republican for finding this. Wow. We got to find out who is the implementing partner who set this up. Can we find the webpage? Oh, all right. Looks like Mario Samimi found it. USAIDstopwork.com. Is this the one? Let's see. Let's see. PEPFAR. Okay. Contact us. Created and maintained by Malloy Consultants. Let's see what this looked like when it first went up. Created by Malloy Consultants. Who paid for this? Did our taxpayer money pay Malloy Consultants to do this? All right, let's go back to our. Let me just run this real quick. Find me every USAID contract involving Malloy Consultants. Is it with an S, right? Let's see here. Malloy Consultants, including each time they were a USAID implementing partner. I mean, every USAID grant, contract, or partnership involving Malloy Consultants. Okay, let's do that. Let's start there. All right. Because it could have been another one that organized Malloy Consultants to do it. It could have been like NDI or Chemonics or someone, or Catholic Charities, or Wilson Center, or First Draft or something that engaged the consultant. All right. So let's see this.
Information. This is also when, some of the first lawsuits that I'll talk about will get started.
Okay, so this is when like the Norm Eisen lawsuits started. So this is they partly set up this website to catalog all of the things that they would use to try to stop Trump from shutting down the agency.
Started. Within that second weekend, there were more signal groups stood up. Like I said, this is an agency of about 10 to 14,000 people. Within the US, we have about 50,000 people who are hired into the ecosystem of awards and grants that are
50,000 people. So remember, it's not just 10 to 14,000 USAID employees. It's 50,000 USAID contractors and subcontractors
that are contracted by USAID. And so this community started really gathering in Signal, especially as we saw the disinformation about USAID coming out of X as
Oops. What did the New York Times say about me here? New York Times, Mike Benz, Elon, USAID. What did they say about me here? Musk and the right co-opt. Oh, this is great. So this is February. Musk has replied to Mr. Benz's posts close to 300 times on X and has cited him in nearly half of his posts mentioning USAID. Which he has blamed for censorship in Europe and Representative AOC's political career, among other things. Mr. Pence did not respond to a request for comment to this article. So this is what they're talking about. That month, nearly half of Elon's posts mentioning USAID were replies or quote tweets of the work that I was putting out. And here you have USAID itself diligently monitoring the situation. Hey, USAID guys, if you're subbed, thank you for the support. If you're in here to spy on me, I hope you're having a good time. If you have any information to send me about the stuff your colleagues were doing, that would be greatly appreciated.
Elon Musk escalated attacks. In that second week after the administration.
And these are the same, remember, USAID has all these censorship programs of disinformation. So when all you have is a hammer, everything is a nail. Everything they don't like has to be disinformation.
Almost all of USAID staff was put on administrative leave, including our ethics lawyers, our HR, security. So this was really when Doge took over, closed our buildings. And that February 5th, we had our first large-scale protest organized in which several congressional leaders stood up with us along with agency leadership.
Large-scale protests. Great. But USAID does best.
Many things have happened. I'll talk about that next, but
we got to watch this whole video. Holy crap. Okay, note at the end of the video, the we in reference to organizing the February 5th protests organized by Soros-backed 5501 and Indivisible. This is the first solid link I found connecting the No Kings movement, State Department, Soros together. Is that true? Because I remember Jamie Raskin, let's see, February 5th. I think it was like Jamie Raskin protest USAID. Was this done by Indivisible? It might be. I just want to make sure. Fire group of about a dozen congressional Democrats blasted Elon Musk and President Trump outside of USAID's headquarters. Was this organized by Indivisible? What's the citation on that? Or was the February 5th USAID protest organized or co-organized by 5501 or Indivisible? Because I don't read that as that, but maybe she's got a different receipt. Okay, Ro Tucci herself goes on to talk about bringing in international actors to assist with the color revolution. The role is going to be mobilizing around corruption. Wow, what USAID does every time to create a legal predicate for like some state attorney general to throw the sitting president of the United States in prison. All right, well, look at all these people on the call.
Is happening. I think we're still in the figuring that out phase, but I do think, 22nd Century will be a great place to build those connections. I know Johns Hopkins is also working to bridge international, domestic.
Yeah. Johns Hopkins is working to bridge international, domestic. Okay, so what she says is, let me copy this. Johns Hopkins is working to bridge international and domestic. That's exactly, this is my whole spiel. That the domestic, that, God, I posted a short on this a while ago that was pretty good. It was like, I was asked, how does this work? How does USAID, I think it was with Danny Jones.
Is USAID doing any of this stuff in America?
It's all supposed to be foreign. What they'll do is they'll fund an organization to do global work, but then it also does domestic work. Like, for example, take something like the Tide Center, which is this big international NGO. It's closely associated with George Soros. So the Tide Center operates domestically with these Soros prosecutors and BLM and all of these different groups, Antifa-related groups, climate-related groups, all these groups that do like street paramilitary action. But they get all this money from USAID. I think they got $27 million worth of grants. Of that, like $22 million were for grants to, quote, secure concrete commitments from foreign governments on civil society matters. They're basically being paid as an intermediary for the U.S. government to do shadow diplomacy on behalf of the U.S. government. So that's like funding their coffers. That allows them to essentially hire people, have institutional clout, have these giant network connections, and then they can leverage that in an in-kind way when it comes to all their little housed domestic products. Right. So, and the whole point is all these international NGOs have a vested interest in profiting from U.S. foreign policy. And the domestically elected president can throw a monkey wrench in that. So let's listen to the whole clip.
Figuring that out phase, but I do think, 22nd century will be a great place.
22nd century will be a great place. I don't even know 22nd century. So fucking many of these color revolution cells. But Johns Hopkins
To build those connections. I know John
be a great place to build those connections.
Hopkins is also working to bridge international domestic.
It's working to bridge international domestic. So this is going to be Johns Hopkins SAIS. And what I have been banging on about is that Trump's contract for higher education. Yeah, okay. So ChatGPT says USAID was not involved in the USAID February 5th rally, but it was the first day of 5501 action. So maybe it was. It says it was separate from the USAID specific rally, though. Okay. That's probably on purpose. Okay. So what I was looking for here is, okay, so Trump's compact for higher education. This thing, the conditions for getting access to federal funds, has been focused on stupid shit, like combating anti-Semitism, which, like, you don't need a separate carve-out just for anti-Semitism, right? It's like the same no DEI, no preferences, no favoritism, no racism that applies to black people, white people, and Jewish people. Like that, they've been focused on like doing it like that. What you should do in the compact for higher education is you should say no organizing fucking domestic civil disobedience networks and color revolution networks in the United States with your international partners. Johns Hopkins, let's see, how much does Johns Hopkins University receive in federal grants and contracts, both directly and indirectly? The estimated total every year for the past 10 years. Oh my God, it's Tide Center Spiral? Holy shit. That's the home of Black Lives Matter Action. That's the home of all these Antifa networks. Holy shit. That's Tides Center. Wow. Wow. Huh. Okay. But what I'm saying is, if you want to stop this fucking color revolution network from being mobilized out of Johns Hopkins University, every institution at Johns Hopkins University must be punished for hosting the whatever school it is, or whatever department or center or institute it is at Johns Hopkins that is coordinating this. And I'm going to bet it's going to be SAIS, the School of Advanced International Studies, whose job is to act as a CIA front to mobilize and organize networks in countries the CIA is acting in, and provide an academic front through exchange programs, through thought leadership, through back channeling with elected leaders or opposition movement leaders. Any of that domestic focus work, if you're home to it, should immediately revoke every dollar of funding that university gets. Force the university to divest of the cancer. That is what the Compact for Higher Education has to do. And for the life of me, I don't know how the admin hasn't figured this out yet. I mean, I've made like 100 videos on it. I haven't had like a dedicated talk with policymakers on this thing. How many times do I need to say it? Johns Hopkins University, let's see how much they end up getting. $3.3 billion in grants. over the past 10 years, Johns Hopkins, are you seeing this? Over the past 10 years, Johns Hopkins has gotten $25 billion fucking dollars from the federal government in free money, in grants. Not even contracts, just grants. 25 billion fucking dollars. If you put in the Compact for Higher Education, not this like bullshit about like, oh, you have to make sure that you stop anti-Semitism. That doesn't move the needle. You put in, you cannot do any domestic bridging around any sort of civil disobedience, non-cooperation, anti-authoritarian work, because we all know what that's code for, overthrowing a democratically elected government. Because it's bullshit. You say that about elected democracies like our own. And in tandem with this, you need a review board. That when someone like me finds some clip like this, dug up by Data Republican, that I can go to that board and say, Johns Hopkins University is in violation of Article 7 of the Compact for Higher Education. Immediately pause all funding to Johns Hopkins University until every member of Johns Hopkins SAIS is fired, until restitution is paid for the damages done to the American taxpayer for misuse of taxpayer funds. And there goes all of your NIH grants, all of your National Science Foundation grants, all of your DARPA grants. The entire university, its funding is put on hold because of the sins of the center or institute at Johns Hopkins that went rogue. That will also make the people at Johns Hopkins be really fucking mad at Johns Hopkins SIS for fucking it up for the rest of them. Do you understand how it's done? This will create a wedge. And it gives a really easy solution for the university to excise the cancer. This is like a now thing. The Trump admin has to do this now. They have to do, because this will affect what's happening at Harvard. This will affect what's happening at Columbia. This will affect what's happening at Berkeley. And what's happening at Johns Hopkins here. $25 billion to subsidize overthrowing our own government. Now, let me check back in before we continue on some of the searches we just did. USA communication rules. Using Signal itself isn't a crime for USAID and any executive branch agency. The legal issue is records management and information security policy. If a USAID employee uses a non-official app like Signal for agency business, they must preserve the record by either copying an official account or forwarding a complete copy to an official within 20 days. You think they did that? You think they did that? Yeah, and Catherine Marr was on the board of Signal. Catherine Marr, the head of NPR and the Atlantic Council, NDI, NED, CIA girl. Okay. Failing to do that can trigger discipline under the Federal Records Act. And if conduct involves willful destruction or concealment of records, it can cross into criminal statutes. Well, that's obviously exactly what this is. She said the intent right here.
Quick recap immediately. So in that first week, we experienced a lot of threatening emails across the staff, a takeover of what was it, DEIA Truth at opm.gov, which was unusual to have centralized emails sent to all government staff. And then many staff who are under a particular hiring mechanism in that first week were immediately put on furlough or laid off. I am a part of that hiring mechanism. Then within that, at the very beginning of, I think over the weekend of that first week, our senior staff, including our general counsel, were put on administrative leave. So we had decapitation of the agency leadership. But as I said, we were responding quickly, and immediately we had what's called the USAID Stop Work Order website and Signal group was.
Okay. Do you think every communication they sent on Signal was copied and uploaded to a USAID database? No fucking way.
Stood up. This was done by a longtime implementing partner who are a strategic communications specialist, and they.
Now, the other thing is, if you go back and listen to what she said here,
transition initiatives, which work specifically in countries and places that are transitioning from perhaps authoritarian governments or wartime into more peaceful and structured, hopefully democratic governments. OTI has been a major player, so they pre-organized because, as Danielle said, they had organized during the previous Trump administration to respond to threats to our U.S. democracy. Also terribly organized that I'm proud about is our Gender and Sexual Minorities Employee Resource Group. We are a cautious community and well prepared for. We saw the writing on the wall and the attacks that were already happening during the election cycle. And so we had already moved our group away from the USAID main systems into Signal chats to protect our community there.
To protect our community. So this is willful. This is willful. You have intent right here. Not only that, you have a premeditated intent to do it. So you have conspiracy. You have an agreement between all those different USAID employees and an act in furtherance, the actual doing of it. You have a conspiracy to willfully destroy or conceal federal records. What is the penalty for conspiracy to willfully destroy or conceal federal records? I mean, this woman right here can be immediately deposed. She was a former USAID employee who testified on camera what appears to be conspiracy to willfully destroy or conceal federal records. Fines up to 3 years of imprisonment. Basically, you indict her and have the FBI ask for a list of everyone she conspired with. And you can just pull the records. She was a USAID employee, as she said. Holy shit. Conspiracy to violate Section 18 USC 2071, Federal Record Statute. Carries up to 5 years imprisonment plus a fine. Adds up to 3 years for custodian's disqualification from federal office. Up to 5 years. This is specifically to evade oversight from the incoming administration. She admits to it on camera. And she admits the intent. Am I missing something here? I bet you OTI did the same thing. Okay, this link you guys keep sending me. Oh, here you go. Yeah, $115 million for OTI. Yeah, active where Bono is in Ethiopia. But it's a million of these places. OTI's all over the Balkans. And okay, let's, boom, boom, boom. Where are we? We are at right here. Okay, so getting back to this.
Democracy, conflict mitigation spaces, democracy, conflict mitigation connections. I know John Hopkins is also working to bridge international, domestic democracy, conflict mitigation spaces.
Democracy, the U.S. Institute of Peace type work.
And to Hochul's point, actually just bringing in, like, we don't have to be intermediaries either. We can bring in actors or colleagues from around the world who have dealt with this directly, very specific issue sets, whether that's on tackling corruption or how to respond to corruption, mobilizing around corruption. We can bring those folks in and kind of be those facilitators.
The facilitators, just like Jeffrey Epstein. Yeah, we don't have to do it directly. We can just facilitate.
And so, again, I think those coordination structures are just starting to take place. And, Walt, I think coordination is happening. I think
they're just starting to take place. Oh, wow. All right. What's the source video here? They justify the international aspect by claiming the authoritarians are already globally networked.
International side. Certainly our USAID community has very close relationships with locals across the entire world and have worked globally on global trends, global authoritarianism. This movement right now, we're very much framing it as an anti-authoritarian movement in the US, but dependent, the authoritarians are networked globally, and this has our movement, our very movement that we're talking about right now, has the potential to ultimately be a global anti-authoritarian movement given our networks.
It already is that. I mean, this is how they always operate. This is just a dumb, low IQ regurgitation of shit.
I also want to talk to...
Okay. Oh, the IRI.
To build coalitions with conservative allies in our democracy assistance community. Within our network, we have the National Endowment for Democracy and the Political Party Institutes, the National Democratic Institute and the International Republican Institute. Actually, the staff in both NDI and I to build coalitions with conservative.
Yeah, so this is how they're going to try to get the Never Trump Republicans to lend their Chamber of Commerce, military contractor, oil industry muscle to deposing Trump from office. Unless you think it is harmless, they outright admit their goal is to create new socio-political economic governance systems. Yeah, let's see.
The foment of the current constitutional crisis is our opportunity to catalyze and synergize a dynamic change making fractal ecosystems capable of co-generating the emergence of the new thriving together. The
fuck did you just say? I mean, I kind of specialize in translating, CIA psychobabble, but this is a particularly dumb one. The foment of the current constitutional crisis is our opportunity to catalyze and synergize a dynamic change-making fractal ecosystem capable of co-generating the emergence of the new thriving together based on socio-political economic governance systems. This is like, tell me you didn't read the book without telling me you didn't read the book. This is like the kind of shit that, like, you make everything unnecessarily polysyllabic because you don't even know what the fuck you're talking about. I mean, obviously this is like just accomplish our agenda and put it in, polysyllabic pablum, but this is just very funny.
Based socio-political economic governance systems. That is a long sentence.
In partnership with I Am Lisa Logan. Okay, and SK Double Dip. Here's a thread from last night outlining. Okay, yeah, all right. Sure. Okay, this is the original thread. And this is their core ecosystem. I did not build this map. Most dots represent a separate NGO. And this is only a partial list. It does not include actors such as DMAID, Democracy Aid. Let's see what's going on here. Let me see here. National support, builders, One for Democracy, Protect Democracy, Catholic Charities. Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. This is the state level. Okay, this is just like a glancing around coups. Yep. Stanford, of course. Okay. Right. Let's see. Chairman's. Boom. Heinz. Okay. OTI. Yes. Boom, boom, boom. To stabilize something. No, that's not destabilize. Okay. Boom, boom. Active programs. Libya, Nigeria, Yemen, Uganda, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Yugoslavia, Guatemala, Honduras, Haiti, Colombia, Peru, Bolivia, Indonesia. And remember, like OTI branches off into DRG, Democracy, Rights, and Governance. So there's going to be a ton beyond that. Every blue dot is an NGO. 12,000 groups mapped. John Steiner, vice chair of the Mediators Foundation, along with Stephen Heitz, organized the meeting from 2017 years ago to set the Dignity Movement. Harvard, Ufinity, Search for Common Ground, Robert Fuller. Okay. Just getting through this. All right. What's the source video on this? Is this on YouTube? Timeline of government and USAID community actions. Let's see if we can find this. Like, I want to find this source video. What is this person's last name? Guys, see if you can help me. See if you can help me find the source video here. Find me the source video for the clip in this tweet. What's the phrasing here? Timeline of government and USAID community actions. It probably has the phrase timeline of government and USAID community actions. Timeline of government and USAID actions in it. And a USAID employee, former USAID employee, whose first name appears to be Van. All right. Now let's see. Let's see if we just go to YouTube. Maybe it's in here. You know, I'm going to try Grok on this too, because I think Grok might do a better job of searching tweets. All right. While we're running that, let's get back to where we were. All right. I want to look up the Malloy stuff, right? Malloy Consultants. I can't find a record, prime or sub, showing Malloy Consultants, a small two-person receiving a USAID grant or contract or being named an implementing partner. This is what I'm talking about. It might not be Malloy. They may have just been tasked to set up this website from a different implementing partner. Okay, they created and run USAIDStopWork.com. Yeah, this is what I suspected. It was probably someone else who hired Malloy. I want to know who that is. All right, what was the other thing that we wanted to do here? We had the USAID communication rules up to $250,000. And the statute of limitations, I mean, this is totally fresh. They organized this in January 2025. Let's see if we have any luck with Grok finding this. Here's the full source of that video. Rumble, full recording. Coup d'etat, group leads call, NIH CDC. Okay, it appears in this recording. Van Creedle, the USAID staffer. See your public profiles here. Oh, okay. Oh, man. A LinkedIn event blurb, notes of presentation. Oh, my God. Yep. Uh-oh. We got jackpot. We got a jackpot. All right. Can someone, I don't have a LinkedIn. Can someone go to her LinkedIn discreetly, very discreetly, and do a full screenshot? Like, go to like a site shot. Like, go to her LinkedIn. It's Van Creedle. Van Creedle. You see this? This is the LinkedIn. And then go to, since I can't access LinkedIn, then go to siteshot.com. Take a full screenshot, full page. So you have to cite it on, you have to put it on full size. And then go to imgur.com. Upload the image in an imgur. Like, just put whatever, just like upload the image that you download, put it on Imgur, and then just send me the Imgur link. Okay? If you can do that. some enterprising sleuth following along. Okay, so the source clip appears to be the full recording of the Generate Democracy Community Forum held on March 20th, 2025, as part of the Thriving Together U.S. initiative. Daniel Reif, Van Cradle, and Rotucci on the USAID community's response to Trump. The full 145-minute recording is available here. Damn. Grok did a great job here too. Look at that. All right, we gotta save this shit. Hold on a sec. Hold on a second. Oh wait, where did I move my guy? Sorry, I'll turn on some music in a little bit here. I just figured this was going to be clip heavy. All right. So Grok found this one, and ChatGPT found this one, right? The Rumble link. Okay. So let's see what this says. Okay. Generate Democracy, March 20, leveraging technology, building local and state, bridging and blocking strategies. Let's see. Where's the...
All right. All right, now you're doing, John. For sure. People a chance to do a round of quick introductions. Then I'll go back to setting the stage.
Trusted networks.
Economic governance systems. That is a
USAID and in our implementing partner community who specialize in
Our hiring mechanism in the residential's emergency plan. Not going to get in that.
Action, action, action. Suddenly, we got very busy in a different way than we ever have been before. Let me see if the Rumble video is a little bit cleaner to navigate. Ooh, this is going to be spicy. Let's see. Where's that Rumble link? Non-cooperation for federal workers. Holy shit. Tori. Is that the girl who hates me? I am Tori. I never did anything to this woman, and she, hates me for some reason. Is she the one who found this? I mean, this is good shit. Good for her. If so.
Participants, where your name is, I just did. This is called a spectrogram. And what we're going to do is ask you a question.
No, this is the same thing freedom trainers did. Remember in our last stream? This is like the exact same. It's the same people. The power of non-cooperation, protests. This is like everything they do. But these are the same slides from the freedom traders. These are the exact same slides from last week's stream. A global problem. Bolsonaro, Brazil, Italy, Poland. I mean, it's just a CIA hit list. What is the difference between this group and what the CIA is calling for under Obama and Biden? None. It's just taking the same tactics to go after Bolsonaro in Brazil internationally and applying it domestically.
What? And so we are
Democratic backsliding, blah, blah. Democratic backsliding, blah, blah. Cycles of attacks. Great. Pillars of support. Right. This is going to undermine, get the business community to do mass boycotts on all of Elon Musk companies. Blah, 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 blah. So predictable. Dun, dun, dun. Undermine the system. Turning insight into action. Choose your target. Wow. Points of intervention. You guys see this? You guys see this? Look at this. They're planning to break the law again. Openly. This is like a USAID person. Points of intervention. Points of production For instance, a factory, disrupt a factory, points of destruction, a logging road, like barricade a road, points of consumption, a retail store, points of decision, a corporate headquarters, points of assumption, a foundational narrative or a place of symbolic importance, and relative calendar events. This is like them, again, plotting to like barricade roads. This is like plotting felonies. The thing that you need to do to nail them is to like find one of the protests that involved that they called for. Then you have conspiracy. Then you have a criminal conspiracy. Because right now they're planning to do it, but I don't know. The only blocking roads that happened were like the ICE riots so far this year, right? So we need to show that the people involved in this were working with the ICE rioters in Los Angeles or Portland or Seattle. Honestly, it's probably not that hard to find. But if you do that, you have a criminal conspiracy. Let me make a note of this. Wow. Crazy. Is that the same video as this?
And here's the specifics on the fight back.
Here's the specifics on the fight back. Lawsuits. Can you guys see this? There you go. Well, the new normal. Lawsuit. At least a dozen major ones. Nonviolent collective action. Mob violence. Protests, clapouts. Die-in at Congress. Fuel media coverage. Hustled to tell our side of the story. Hearings, walk-ins, congressional engagement, state-level work, community care, job searching.
And I'll go through these quickly again. Health searching. We have more than 15.
One is a group called USAID.
To ensure foreign assistance for soft power. Friends of USAID Substack. Okay. Friends of USAID Substack. I laugh because this is like such a common CIA technique. It's like what you do is if you want to like overthrow like the Belarusian government, like the CIA will set up through a front company or through a university department funded by USAID, like a Friends of Belarus society. Or like another, like one of the things that I argue about Jeffrey Epstein is that he was not a formal CIA asset with a human intelligence file, but rather a friend of the station, a facilitator, a contact. But I just think it's funny they use that same language. Friends of USAID. Stratcom.
Aid, which is essentially if you hear about alt US government agencies or an alt USAID, this is the agency-wide group that's organizing broadly to.
Did you say it's called alt USAID? It's like the alt-right. Hold on a second.
Searching. We have more than 15,000 people out of work. Just
one is a group called USAID, which is essentially if you hear about alt US government agencies or an alt USAID.
USAID. Alt USAID. Okay.
This is the agency-wide group that's organizing broadly to save foreign assistance and ensure that in the.
I wonder if they're connected to the Global Leadership Coalition. Okay, you guys have been sending this to me? Okay, Imgur. Thank you, Spiral. Let me check this out. Boom. Thank you. All right. Spiral with the win. Again. All right, let's check this out. Whoa, that is a beefy buddy here. Okay, so she started off at St. Paul's Parish in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Oh, doing youth programming. They always try to brainwash the young. Community Cohesion Initiative. The government of the Islamic State? Is that what that says? Hold on a sec. I think that says the government of USA, right? right? Or that's just like ISIS, right? I'll say. Okay, so she went from working with youth-focused programming in Massachusetts to building community cohesion with local actors, governance structures, and the government of the Islamic. Is it going to be like the Islamic State? Yeah, naturally, as one 3-year gap in her resume. 3-year gap in her resume, and goes from working with young people in Cambridge, Massachusetts, to working with the Islamic State on counterinsurgency work. Huh. I wonder what she was doing for those 3 years. Probably just at home knitting. This is this Van Creedle character here. All right. UN Women. Boston University. Sorority girl. Catholic University. Okay, we're going to get the Catholic Charities type tie-ins. She was, Counterpart International. Developing leaders. Civil society capacity building. Okay, so this is going to be like some USAID, CIA capacity building contractor. Counterpart International. Let's see, Counterpart International. This is going to be like a Chemonics type group. It's a nonprofit that they build local organizations in more than 65 countries. In 1968, it began receiving funding from USAID. In 1968. It's almost 60 years ago. Been funded by USAID. Okay. Initially focused on the South Pacific. In 1992, it got to go global and helped determine a role for NGOs in the former Soviet Union. So it became a way of blob colonizing the satellite states of the former Soviet Union at the end of the Cold War. Great. Board of directors. Of course, an economist is going to be able to tell people what to do with their economy. Okay, great. MasterCard. And this is going to control their financial transactions. Oh, my God. They're teamed up with the Ministry of Planning and Budget of Brazil. The Lula government. This is gross. Bezos Earth Fund. Verizon. Millennial Challenge Corporation. Climate. Okay, boom, 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 boom. Great. Andrews Air Force Base, yes. NGOs on military Air Force bases. Sounds about right. Cooperative agreement with USAID. Global Civil Society Strengthening Program. Civil Society Strengthening Program. Globally. $350 million in USAID it got. And that was in 2009. She joins them in 2016. So I'm sure it's still partnered through the Global Civil Society Strengthening Program, which is just a capacity building program for the CIA. Wherever we go, we want to build up our unions. We want to build up our judge roster, our academic roster, our media roster. Counterpart International steps in. I wonder how many people at Counterpart International have national security clearances. It's a fun exercise. How many people at this little NGO have national security clearances, allowing them to see classified information that civilians are not allowed to see? Great question. Oh, and of course, this woman, so friggin' predictable. Van Creedle then went to work from 2018 to 2021 at the fucking CIA Union branch, the Solidarity Center, right here. Ned's union arm. Ned is the CIA. Ned's union arm is the Solidarity Center. She worked for the CIA's union arm. this woman who we just saw confessing to what appeared to be crimes, a conspiracy to conceal or destroy, willfully conceal or destroy federal records, and plotting with the Office of Transition Initiatives to transition our own democratically elected government, or otherwise subvert that democratically elected government from the inside with our own taxpayer dollars. So she was implementing CIA union programs in Cambodia, Guatemala, Lesotho, and South Africa, with a focus on strengthening local partner capacity. Now, this is an important term here that I talk about a lot, and a lot of people might not catch the significance of it, but it's called capacity building. This is a concept in nonprofit world which refers to the pumping up of financial resources and personnel and technological abilities, but number one is financial resources. So, for example, when the State Department wants to run an operation in a foreign country, the first thing they do is they capacity build all of their civil society and private sector and news media outlets there. They pump them up so that they're more useful as assets, so that they have higher capacity to carry out the things they will be instrumentalized for. So all these unions are going to be captured unions of the Central Intelligence Agency, organized personally. And this is why you're going to see so much of this union work. They use the federal unions. And of course, she was at the Solidarity Center during the Trump years. Trump was funding her budget. So when she talked about how OTI, when she talked about how Office of Transition Initiatives led the resistance inside USAID during Trump's first term, she knew because she was fucking working with them. She was at the Solidarity Center. USAID and the CIA's right-hand man for organizing masses of people in the streets through the unions in every country. You want to destabilize a country, a government in Africa? You get all the union groups, the workers, the miners, the factory employees to take to the streets and riot because they're on the payroll of the fucking CIA union arm, the Solidarity Center. And now she's organizing these federal union groups. What is it? AFSCME or whatever it is. Union government employees. The American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees. Okay, that's the state ones. But like the AFL-CIO lawsuit against U.S. State Department, which was spearheaded by Norm Eisen. This case challenges the ability, so this is AFL-CIO, which Solidarity Center is a branch of. The AFL-CIO is the biggest union group in the United States of America. It's the umbrella of all the major unions. She's going to be working with them on this case. That's probably what they set up Stop USAID for or whatever. All right, you guys are sending me a bunch of links here. Look at Ro Tucci's page 2. So that was half of the Trump administration into the Biden administration. Then she goes on to Zemtech, knowledge management and learning specialist, launched agency-wide practice of 1,000 plus participants through structured business rhythms. I see Moondance sent me stuff on that. Let's check it out. Okay. And Cradle. Yes, from USAID Washington. Armenia. Great. Then senior manager Salience supported in development of implementation of USAID's localization agenda. Shifted $900 million. I wish I could open up the see more. Can I get the see more for these? And then she was chief of staff for public service and international assistance, freelance. Yeah, and literally it was Norm Eisen who led this case, this AFL-CIO case. Network weaving. Damn. Okay. All right. All right. Spiral's got the. All right. Row. 10 years. Blah, 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 blah. Let's start from the bottom. Okay. Bridge builder. I love it. Fulbright scholar. They always start. Every Fulbright scholar I've ever seen has just been a CIA incubated NATO bot. Of course, Fulbright scholar in Bulgaria. Every one of these people. This is like, your path in like high school, college to a CIA career. Fulbright scholar. Boston College, okay, so same town. National Security Council at the White House. Then USAID for 5.5 years. Interesting. September 2021 to January 2017. So she was at USAID until Trump first started. Oh my God, she was the deputy director of DRG? Oh my God. Remember what I said, the worst part? OTI. But then within that, the worst part of it was DRG. Pre-organizing by OTI. OTI is one of the worst places in all of USAID. That and the whole of the DRG, Democracy, Rights, and Governance. Holy shit. She was the deputy director of DRG. All the censorship shit comes out of DRG, Democracy, Rights, and Governance. And she led that coming into the Trump admin. Holy shit. Holy shit. $130 million in programming, developing the 2015 DRG strategic plan. Holy shit. Oh my God. So Trump gets in office. Have I taught you well, my friends? This is so predictable. So Trump gets in office in January 2017. She's at USAID for 5.5 years. As soon as Trump is elected, where does she go? The U.S. Institute of Peace. The riot organizing agency that we did like 3 full streams about, where Maria Stefan was organizing the riots out of. Goes straight from USAID to the U.S. Institute of Peace. As soon as Trump is elected, and is there the entire Trump term. And then, as soon as Trump loses, she goes right back to USAID, where she becomes Deputy Assistant Administrator for DRG. Oh my God. Right as DRG is setting up the entire censorship apparatus. Holy shit. She was personally involved. Oh my God. Wow. Wow. We're going to scrape every fucking file, every federal record. Soon as the government turns back on, this is like the golden key type stuff. Imagine the files, the internal files, every email she sent, every analyst memo she sent and received. The amount of fuckery. I mean, when they talk about like this is a global network, Trump is aligned with Bolsonaro in Brazil. And I'm sorry, when were you like the deputy head of DRG? She was the deputy head of DRG 2021 to 2023. Right when DRG was all over Brazil. You know she was like in on that shit. Tipping the 2022 election with USAID money to back Lula. We even saw, like, there was a Lula minister of budget or whatever on the board of one of these guys, right? Incredible. Incredible. And of course, I didn't even go looking for it. I said, I bet you she's involved in the censorship shit because the DRG. But look at this. What was she doing for the whole past year? July 2024 to January 2025? Overseeing 300 plus people and $300 million in programming across 20 countries on polarization, mis and disinformation and extremism. Polarization is just a censorship predicate word. The society is polarized because people are promoting a different point of view than what USAID wants done in the region. So they're polarizing. Disinformation. Literally exactly what DRG was doing programmatically. And that's what she was doing on the top of her LinkedIn for the entire past year. I'm sorry. It's just like, I should be on like the Golden State Warriors. Do I miss? Do I ever, like, when I really make a shot, do I ever really miss? I'm Steph Curry in this shit. Boom, buckets, buckets, eyes closed, buckets, behind the back, buckets. No arms, I'll do it with my feet, buckets. She's going to do all the, oh my God, I know everything. I know it all already. Positive public media campaign for USAID. Led capacity for organizing collective action in the Civil Society Partner Network. Damn, it is so predictable. Fascinating. I bet you both of these people have such an intense, I bet you they work together with Maria Stefan. I mean, like, we just saw Rotucci. Rotucci was literally at the U.S. Institute of Peace with Maria Stefan. This is Walt Roberts, the Inter-Movement Impact Project. Okay, let me check that out. Thank you. Good Trouble Project, Friends of USAID. Ha! Riot Networks, Good Trouble. All right, what's this? Walt Roberts. What's his background? USAID Forever, Friends at USAID. Look at all the good things we do. Look at all the good things we do. You're plotting to overthrow our government with our tax dollars. I've seen this Good Trouble group, this like 501c3 Good Trouble around before too. I forget the whole dossier on them. Trouble Partnership. All right, let me get a little music on. I think this works. Rosary Tucci, yeah. Give me a second. I'm just organizing some things. Give me like 30 seconds. Nonviolent action during democratic transitions from the U.S. Institute of Peace. Rotucci, right here. Director. Whoa. You guys are gonna like this one. We just hit the jackpot. Hold on, give me a second. I gotta copy this so before we lose it. Hold on. Sorry, I'm just ingesting a lot of this stuff right here. What is this? I'm just going to kind of, in a chill way, just kind of compile what you guys are putting in the chat while I work through some of this. Deputy Director of DRG.
It's a lot.
All right, let me check out what. So it looks like Thriving Together is who organized USAID and all those other people into that call. So we need kind of like a, who was that guy? Walt, what the heck was his name? Walt Roberts, Thriving Together. Because I think Spiral just found the Thriving Together like movement plan or something. We'll check this out. Let's see. Rachel Kleinfeld. Holy shit. Rachel Kleinfeld is a piece of work. Truman National Security Center. The DNC plan to take control over the national security state after losing to the Bushes. Then State Department National Security Council, NED, Golden Resume, Blob Monster, Rachel Kleinfeld. Also in the censorship industrial complex, I believe through the Harvard Belfer Center or something. Strategy number 4 of Rachel Kleinfeld's 5 strategies. Okay. What did Rachel Kleinfeld say with 5 strategies? Let me check that out. Rachel Kleinfeld, 5 strategies to support U.S. democracy. Wow. Google just auto-populates 5 strategies. Oh my God, at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace, the CIA, Bill Burns ran that for 7 years before becoming CIA director. That's where Eric Ciamarella, the CIA whistleblower, went immediately afterwards. Funded by USAID. It's just a CIA cutout. Oh my God. September 2022. 5 strategies. This is going to be like arrest everyone. When did Trump announce? Before I even read this, to support strategy number 4 of Rachel Kleinfeld's 5 strategies to protect U.S. democracy, right? Okay, so number 4, the strategy is probably going to be like civil society capacity building and building bridges between interfaith and union and LGBTQIA and racial and ethnic minority and gendered minorities and blah, 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 right? It's going to be like building everyone together into a giant blob so that they will all be immediately supportive of the thing we guzzle down their throats and we'll take to the streets when we tell them to. I bet you, let's see, when did Trump, let's see. This is going to be, when did Trump announce? When did Trump announce he was running for 2024 president? He announced on November 15th, 2022. So I bet you one of these strategies is going to be rule of law, because I knew Trump was about to announce he was running. Rule of law to get rid of presidential immunity and to hold past politicians to account, as was done in South Africa through Truth and Reconciliation Committees, like blah, 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 all this bullshit, right? Strategic support, boom, boom. How the CIA will stop you from voting for who you want to vote for and not letting that person win, even if he gets all the votes. Okay. Enable response. Okay, so here you go. 5 strategies are, this is the CIA blueprint for how to control America's elections. Okay, create a wedge strategy to wedge conservatives off of Trump. Reduce the social demand from the right for illiberal policies and politicians. So again, like gatekeep. Don't allow any pro-populist voices on the right while turning the right against Trump. Engage the left in defending democracy. Build a broad-based, multi-stranded pro-democracy movement concretized in local-rooted action. So network of network strategy. And that's what number 4 is. That is what thriving together is. Strengthen accountability to reset norms on what behavior is legal and acceptable. I told you. I fucking told you. From fucking downtown, no look, behind the back, nothing but net, half-court shot. I fucking, look, there were only 5 things on this list. And what I call it, the fucking grand slam of the whole thing is strengthen accountability. That means throwing people in jail to reset norms on what behavior is legal. Because the norm is you don't throw a U.S. president in goddamn prison. It's never been done. You don't indict a U.S. president. They better have done something they better have committed murder in broad daylight because of the implications and the tit for tat that will set off for the rest of American history. And that's, of course, her grand coup de grace. I didn't intend a pun, but now that I think of it, pun fucking intended. Coup. Not so much grass. Three near-term futures. Stable states run by one political party where voters cannot alter politics. That's what they're fucking setting up. Holy shit. Yeah, this is all going to be about, let's see. Trump. This is like just, there you go. Trump. 86 times. Reset the norms. We have to change the norms in America, so it's okay to arrest a president. Oh, no. Not if Trump wins. But at that point, it's September 2022. They didn't think he had a fucking chance. Thriving together. This is the one you sent me, right? Network of networks. Network of state networks, yeah. This is, I'm doing like a supercut of this phrase, network of networks. Is this the same thing or is it a different one? I think that's a different one that you sent me. Let's play a little bit of this one. This is the first one you sent me, right? And this is the second one. Okay. Here you go. Yeah, civic hubs. Block, bridge, build, belong. Washington State was cited as a pilot for the structure. Gee, where's Seattle? There's going to be all these Seattle Antifa nodes. I bet you thriving together. I bet you. Here, let me just like copy this in here. I bet you this is going to connect to Seattle Antifa. I bet you this is going to connect to Seattle Antifa network leaders. I bet you. When they said their pilot program. So Washington State was the pilot for this fractal network of local civic hubs connected by a state network. Let's watch this video Spiral found.
You know, let's just kick things off with a pretty provocative idea. What if fixing our democracy wasn't just about, endless serious meetings? What if it actually had to be engaging, maybe even fun, to really work? It's a fascinating and, I think, a really crucial place to start.
Because today, we're going to dive into this incredible story of civic renewal that's been quietly unfolding all across America. And it's not some single campaign. It's this huge, interconnected ecosystem, what people are calling a movement of many movements. And it's all about rebuilding democracy.
A movement of movements, a network of networks. This is the same language that the Integrity Initiative uses. This is the same language the National Down for Democracy uses. Network clandestinity. Yeah, this is one that I looked at, right? Sharing democracy. October 6th. It's just a month ago. Audio slide deck. This is what you guys found. This is going to be like, you have to make it a party because that's how we get numbskull and 30 IQ people to show up in droves.
Democracy from the ground up. Because, let's be honest, a lot of people feel like those top-down solutions just aren't cutting it anymore. So where does a story like this even begin? Well, it's not in Washington, D.C. It's a lot closer to home. The whole idea here is that the antidote to all the national division we're seeing isn't some big policy from on high. It has to be built, person by person, right in our own communities. Okay, get this. Take a look at what happened in Skagit County, Washington. It's pretty amazing. 150 people from over 30 different local groups. We're talking faith communities, service clubs, cultural organizations. They all just started meeting, and not to debate politics.
Skagit County, Washington. Where's that? Is this going to be like some blow up a pipeline shit? Like blocking some oil pipeline? Skagit County, Washington. Let's see. Is a county in the state of Washington. Okay, 130,000 people. Mount Vernon. Okay, what's the biggest city? Biggest city in the county. Okay, Mount Vernon. Oh, Mount Vernon's like the tallest mountain in the Mountain West, right? I think outside the Rockies. Okay, so this is going to be like a ski town, a ski resort town? Let's see.
Politics, but simply to get to know each other as neighbors. So what happens when you do that? When people actually connect on a human level? Well, Terry Kylo, one of the organizers, he put it perfectly. The conversation just naturally changed. It went from just knowing each other to asking this really powerful, unifying question. Okay, now that we know each other, how can we make our community better together? And that question they asked in Skagit County, that's really the heart of a much, much bigger vision. This isn't just about a few isolated projects here and there. It's a shared philosophy for what a healthy community and, a healthy country could actually look like. The guiding principle behind all of this is this beautiful, really ambitious idea. All people and all places thriving together, no exceptions. I mean, it's a vision that's designed to...
One of the challenges here is because there's so many nodes, you have to really... Because there's so much money being flung at this from all the anti-Trump donor class. Like, all these NGOs are getting funding for, like, their particular thing they bring to the table. And, like, what we're really trying to do is, like, nail down, like, the Rotucci thing is huge. The Van Creedle thing is huge. Like, that's actionable. Like, I can go to when the government turns on. Again, I can go to the government, show them this, pull all the files, talk to the Department of Justice, and potentially get the accountability that Rachel Kleinfeld demanded to change the, reset the norms around what's legal. Hey, the CIA told me to say that. Carnegie Endowment. Not my idea. Don't like it? Take it up with yourself.
To just cut right through the usual divides and give everyone a common goal to work towards. And this is where that vision gets really practical. See, thriving isn't just some vague feeling. It's actually a framework of 7 vital conditions. These are the essentials we all need, from stuff like humane housing and meaningful work, to a healthy environment, and yeah, even just reliable transportation. It's a whole picture view of what makes a community really work. And right there, at the very center of it all, you've got this: belonging and civic muscle. This is the absolute key, the linchpin. Belonging is that feeling of being connected, of being valued for who you are. And civic muscle, and right essentials we all need, from stuff like humane housing and meaningful work, to a healthy environment, and yeah, even just reliable transportation. It's a whole picture view of what makes a community really work. And right there, at the very center of it all, you've got this: belonging and civic muscle. This is the
muscle. Again, civic just means civil society, a non-profit NGO, foundation, university center space. Doesn't mean civic as in ethical. Unions are civil society institutions, part of our civic mobilization. Bullshit. Muscle.
The absolute key, the linchpin. Belonging is that feeling of being connected, of being valued for who you are. And civic muscle? Well, that's the community's collective power, its ability to actually work together and get things done. The crucial insight is that you build this foundation first, that trust, that capability, and it unlocks everything else. Okay, so we've got local action and we've got this grand vision.
And you know how you build that muscle? You know how do you build that trust? With big fucking piles of cash. That's how you build the trust. Why should I trust Indivisible to tell me what to do with my faith-based community, with my local workers union, with my local housing collective? Here's a big bag of fucking cash. Okay, I trust you. The structure, a fractal network. I feel like I'm listening to Antifa overlords explain their crimes. How do we structure it? It's a fractal network.
But how in the world do you connect the two? How do you scale this up? The answer, it turns out, lies in this really elegant organizing structure. It's called a fractal network. And the best way to think about it is like a snowflake, right? The same beautiful repeating pattern exists whether you're looking at a tiny little piece or the whole thing. It's the same with this movement. The core principles of connection and collaboration are the same at every single level, from a tiny neighborhood group all the way up to the national stage. And this slide just breaks it down brilliantly. It all starts at the local level with those civic muscle hubs, just like the one we saw in Skagit County. Then those hubs connect with each other to form state-level networks. And from there, they link up to create a coordinated national impact.
So this is like Torch City Antifa, like the state chapter of the National Lawyers Guild, and Indivisible. This is so funny. Like, how to avoid a RICO case by arguing that you're not really like connected to a wider network. You're just some random people coming together in your local city. Hold on a sec. I am going to get some more rice pudding because it's hitting the spot. So let me turn some music on. Give me 1 second. All right, let's get back to it.
Each level supports and learns from the others. It's pretty genius. All right, so let's say you're part of a group on the ground and you want in on this. What do you actually do? Well, there's a simple but really comprehensive playbook that guides all the work.
It's called the 4B framework, and I absolutely love that this slide shows the original hand-drawn diagram. It just perfectly captures that grassroots, accessible spirit of this whole thing. It's a super powerful model for thinking about all the different kinds of work that a healthy democracy actually needs.
So here they are, the 4 Bs. Building is about creating new, better systems. Blocking is about resisting the anti-democratic forces out there. Bridging is all about connecting across our differences. And belonging is about fostering that deep sense of shared community. The real insight here is that a healthy movement needs all four of these things happening at the same time, working together.
Okay, time for
across our differences.
You think any of these fucking you think any of these groups give a flying fuck about democracy or can define this term? Yeah, the reason that I am part of this criminal justice reform node of this Soros web is because I believe people are going to jail for too long for committing, child molestation or aggravated assault. There should be less prison time for doing drugs. I am against this universal human rights principle of authoritarianism. That's really what's driving this. It's authoritarian to sentence people to 5 years in prison for aggravated assault. Do you think a single fucking one of these people can define democracy? They'd be like, oh, it's what the people vote for in a free and fair election. Well, people voted for Trump in a free and fair election. And they voted for a Republican majority in the House of Representatives and a Republican majority in the Senate. No, never mind. I'm for anarchy. I'm an Antifa anarchist group. Well, you're still a part of our resisting authoritarianism then. Okay, so you're like anti-democratic, but you also don't like it. I mean, this is just like the umbrella term for good guy, bad guy. That's all it is. There's no functional definition to this. They are the authoritarians that they describe. They are the anti-democratic forces they describe. It's just democracy, autocracy. As I explained a million times, this is just the CIA pablum. How do you define good guy and bad guy? Not along universal principles. We just call autocrat, Democrat. Autocracy, democracy. That's it. So, yes. So, our own shit, taking out other people's shit, connecting our shit with each other, and just doing belonging to like the, being a bottom in a gay relationship with George Soros. That's like what belonging is. You belong to me, little boy. So you're useful to us if you do one of these three things. As long as you do what you're told, bitch. Belonging is being a prison bitch in a George Soros network of networks. The linchpin of it all. You're my prison bitch.
And belonging is about fostering that deep sense of shared community. The real insight here is that a healthy movement needs all four of these things happening at the same time, working together.
Okay, time for the final zoom out. We've seen the local action, the big vision, the structure, and the playbook. Now, let's just take a moment to appreciate the sheer scale and diversity of this movement of many movements. It's incredible.
It includes groups like Braver Angels, who are laser-focused on depolarization. They bring reds and blues together, not just to talk, but to actually
to make sure they both agree with the George Soros Management Fund. Democracy is polarization. But polarization occurs when people disagree with what the blob wants you to think. So how do we depolarize? How do we get rid of opposition to our narrative?
find common ground and turn that dialogue into action.
And you got organizations like Interfaith America, who are all about building bridges between different religious and non-religious communities, seeing that diversity as...
Yeah, who are all about pastors and rabbis and heads of mosques getting money from USAID or the Open Society Institute or any pass-through, NGO affiliated with the blob. That's all it says. It's just people on the take getting money.
As a massive source of national strength.
Then you have groups like Move to Amend, who are looking at fundamental structural change. They're advocating for constitutional amendments to tackle big issues like corporate influence in our politics. There are even networks like
Except the corporate influence from all the portfolio companies of the Soros Management Fund. Now, these are the good companies. This $25 billion assets under management fund. Building capacity, blah, 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 blah. Trying to see what you sent me here. What's this? Demand aid. Or Demaid. Okay. Very well. Let's get back to this.
Then you have groups like Move to Amend, who are looking at fundamental structural change. They're advocating for constitutional amendments to tackle big issues like corporate influence in our politics.
There are even networks like Demaid, which is made up of former international democracy professionals. These are people who've worked in post-conflict zones and emerging.
Yeah. So none of these people have fucking anything in common with each other, other than they're all getting paid by a collective donor network to oppose Trumpism at home and abroad. That's the only thing that these people have in common with each other. But they can be mobilized because the money. And that money moves through the donor networks, the foundations, the government programs, the university centers, the subgrantees and subcontractors of the government programs.
Democracies around the world, and now they're applying all that expertise right here at home.
This is just fuck my shit up. These are people who are international government regime change experts. And now they're applying their expertise in overthrowing governments right at home. I mean, Demaid seems like it's a living RICO.
And you have initiatives like Better Together America, which is dedicated to helping grow those local civic hubs we talked about.
All right, Spiral wants a 6-second break. Whole of society. Yeah. Yep. The donor class tips. The drafter class pulls the pin. Yeah, I mean, what's important here is it's the same class. I actually wanted to do a thing today on a really cool case study behind of the donor drafter class and Abigail Spanberger. I think we'll have to do that next time because I want to just keep saying on this network. But it's important that it's the donor drafter class. It's one class. It's the same entity. They're, you know, the entity that donates does the drafting. For what it's worth, I don't consider them separate classes. All right, let's go back to this.
About giving them resources and plugging them into the larger network. And believe me, that is just the tiniest sample.
In fact, some estimates say there are over 10,000 organizations and entities doing this work. I mean, just look at this visual. It just nails it. You've got groups in social justice, in civic renewal, in structural reform, all different, but all overlapping and contributing to this one shared goal.
And the only thing that binds them together is money from the same donor network. The same web of foundations that will keep them on a leash. So that they all march in the same direction and don't fight with each other and show up on the day they're told to and civically mobilize when they get the fucking call.
To generate democracy. So here's the most important takeaway. These are not just thousands of separate groups doing their own thing in a vacuum. There's a powerful, intentional effort happening to weave them all together.
This reads I'm sorry to keep going back to this, but this is just the same thing as the CIA Psychological Operations Guide from 1983. You're going to create all these different cells, but then when the time is right, when the call is made, they will all leap together Yeah, here you go. A system for control of the cells isolates individuals from one another, and at the appropriate moment, their influence is used to fuse the groups together into a united front. So what you do is you develop and control a bunch of front organizations. This is the CIA manual. I'll put it in chat again. Okay? All these different groups right here in this network, when he goes and says, look at all this, the size of them.
Those local civic hubs we talked about, giving them resources and plugging them into the larger network.
Giving them resources, paying them, putting them on payroll so that they'll do what they're told. So that they remain a prison bitch. And they're told that they will do what they're told when the paymaster calls in a favor or tells them what to do in the email.
Network. And believe me, that is just the tiniest sample.
In fact, some estimates say there are over 10,000 organizations and entities doing this work. I mean, just look at this visual. It just nails it. You've got groups in social justice, in civic renewal, in structural reform, all different, but all overlapping and contributing to this one shared goal.
Yeah, toppling the Trump regime. But this is the same thing, again, from the CIA manual. Development Control Front organizations. It's carried out through group meetings of the internal cadres and calculating the time needed for the combination of these to be applied to masses. Established citizens, doctors, attorneys, businessmen, teachers will be recruited initially as social crusaders in typically innocuous movements in the area of operations. This right here, getting all these different disparate groups, public health professionals, rule of law scholars, impact-minded, democracy-minded captains of industry, public teachers unions will be recruited initially as social crusaders in typically innocuous movements. Here they are, these discrete cells. Oh, I'm just an innocuous little social and racial justice representation human rights group. I'm just an innocuous little climate and energy solutions group. I'm just advocating for electoral structural reform. What happens next? Then, through a gradual and skillful process, after you create the cells, you following along? After you create all these little cells, these 10,000 little cells, then a system for control of the cells where they're isolated from each other, but then at the appropriate moment, their influence will be used to fuse the groups together into a united national front. At the appropriate moment, when the call is made, all these disparate cells will fuse together and all participate in the same mass protests, the same street riots, which includes slogan shouters, shock troops, a covert commando element, all under the control of the external commando element. This is just CIA professionals, USAID and State Department covert action people doing the thing they've been trained to do to foreign countries on bullshit grounds there, doing it here on bullshit grounds here. Except it's legal for the CIA to go and do that to another country. Here, I feel like it's treason. This feels like a crime. And who do they recruit? Again, from the CIA guide. When they're little human assets, your little, Maria Stefan types, these are the cadres that we're seeing. These, these Van Creedle types, these Ro Tucci types, these Maria Stefan types, these Walt types. They get placed into these organizations to recruit labor unions, youth groups, professional associations, indigenous folks. In foreign countries, you'll have a lot of crop workers. The psychological apparatus of our movement, by means of these internal cadres, will prepare a mental attitude which at the crucial moment, once again, at the crucial moment, could become involved in a fury of justified violence with the mission of agitating, using the tactics of a force of 200 to 300 agitators. One can create a demonstration in which 10 to 20,000 could take part. This is literally just the CIA playbook for overthrowing governments abroad, applied at home by the same CIA professionals. As we've covered, these are the people from USAID Office of Transition Initiatives, which the New York Times says competes with and complements the CIA in transitioning governments, getting rid of, overthrowing governments. All right. Let's see, where are we? DemAid. I've got to make a special note about DemAid. Seems like a pretty significant organizing vehicle, right?
To generate democracy. So here's the most important takeaway. These are not just thousands of separate groups doing their own thing in a vacuum. There's a powerful
there's a powerful connective force. Soros donor funds. But what's interesting here is like what's the other term they use here? WHIP. Yeah. The development and control of front organizations. And this is so funny, right? The development and control of front organizations, all these little NGOs, local NGOs, coordinate at the state level, and the state level answers to the national level. The development and control of these front NGOs will give our movement the ability to create the effect of a whip within the population when the order to merge is given. And we will be able to literally shake down, in this case, the Trump structure and replace it. Do you see this? This constellation of front organizations will give our movement the ability to create the whip, the effect of a whip, within the population when the order to merge is given. This is what they are describing. The order to merge. Listen to this again.
groups in social justice, in civic renewal, in structural reform, all different, but all overlapping and contributing to this one shared goal, to generate democracy.
To generate regime change for this, the donor drafter class, the hedge fund investors.
Here's the most important takeaway. These are not just thousands of separate groups doing their own thing in a vacuum. There's a powerful, intentional effort happening to weave them all together, to build the connective tissue that turns...
Network weaver, right? Wasn't that Van Creedle or Ro Tucci's bio line, Network weaver? There's a powerful behind-the-scenes effort to weave them all together by giving them common instructions from the foundations who are providing them money that keeps them loyal.
Turns all that fragmentation into a single, cohesive, and really compelling national movement.
It turns all that fragmentation suddenly, when the order to merge is given, and they all need to march at the same time, protest at the same time, boycott at the same time, walk out at the same time, file lawsuits at the same time. Well, you have this pyramid structure. So all these ones at the bottom, oh, they're just a local housing collective, just a local trade union for iron smelters. And I love genderqueer, rhinoceros, unicorn, two buttholed ambi freaks. What do they all have in common? Money from the foundations and the controls just going pyramid down. You're going to have indivisible at the top, indivisible 5501. That's going to go out to these like lieutenant level federal national coordinators. We're just going to go out to these state level national coordinators. We're just going to go to the local little clusters in every little city and county so that everyone, when the order to merge is given, suddenly all these disparate fragmented, this fractal structure suddenly aligns like a whip. And then you will be able to literally shake down the government and replace it. This is what we do everywhere. This is what we did in Yugoslavia. This is what we did in Tunisia. This is what we did in Egypt. This is what we did in Bangladesh. This is what we did in Ukraine. This is what we did in Georgia. This is what we did in Poland. This is what we did in Romania. This is what we did in Bulgaria. And by we, I mean these same assholes. That's how they know to do this, because that's their professional job, is setting up these structures in foreign countries and getting paid by USAID to do it. They're not, Water Baby says they're all brainwashed. They're money washed. The reason they stick together is because of the money.
One leader who's deep in this ecosystem, Emma Adams, put in a way that just gives you goosebumps. She said, "I have this sense I can't yet articulate, that you are preparing us collectively for something big."
One participant said, "You know, I don't really understand this tangled, fractal, infinite structure you're putting together, but I have a feeling you're going to use us all for something big. I have a feeling. Yes, I'm happy to be your pawn for pennies, but I have a feeling you're going to use us in some great game." Yeah. Yeah, post your L's.
And that, really, leaves us with the ultimate question, doesn't it? In an age that feels so defined by disconnection and division, is it possible that the solution has been right here?
It only feels that way to you, dog, because you're losing. If you're winning, you wouldn't say this.
In front of us the whole time, in our towns, in our neighborhoods, in our simple ability to connect with each other. Can a network of neighbors really, truly rebuild a nation?
I mean, can you imagine if just like Trump's CIA people set up the same thing? How fast Merrick Garland would just indict the entire thing as a RICO? They used the alternate electors excuse for Arctic frost, while they themselves plotted alternate electors in the Transition Integrity Project, led by John fucking Podesta. Insane. I did want to hit, okay, we're at about 3 hours. Let me just play the music a little bit. I have to return some videotapes. Give me one sec. All right. So I want to point out something real quick. Maybe I should pause this. So I pulled up this video and I was licking my chops. This is from the U.S. Institute of Peace. Let's get a zoom out shot of this. So I just ran a YouTube search for Ro Tucci, the DRG USAID. Right? Just see what YouTube video she's been in. And the first thing that popped up was from January 2023. Can you see this? The U.S. Institute of Peace. Boy, it was a good thing that we did 3 streams on that, like 10 hours worth of content just on USIP. I don't know, more than that, probably. Nonviolent action, so mob swarming when you are already successfully overthrowing a government. This is fascinating, okay? So the speakers here are the Director of Applied Research. That's That's so funny, right? That means operations. This is, again, hiding under the researcher moniker. So again, applied research means it's not research. You are doing operations. This is like, I'm researching how external agency support to trade unions in Tunisia helps advance democratic transitions in Tunisia. So I'm going to research how USAID money given to the AFL-CIO local affiliate in Tunisia helps topple the Tunisian government by applying that research to the current Tunisian political climate. This is like if you were doing applied research in the field of criminal forensics. I'm going to research how a 9mm bullet penetrates the skull of another human. I'm just researching how this gun fires this bullet and whether or not it will create a fractal pattern on the wall behind me, or whether or not it will create a shotgun pattern of the guts behind me. So I'm going to run this experiment on a guy who happens to be my political enemy, and I will do applied research, and I'll report back to you my findings. Hey, it turned out it successfully worked. The government of Tunisia is overthrown because of my applied research. At where? At the Horizons Project. This is a direct linkage between Maria Stephan from the U.S. Institute of Peace mob violence group to Maria Stephan and her thing she did afterwards. The co-lead and chief organizer of the Horizons Project. So this is her domestic protest and riot training group, working directly with the U.S. Institute of Peace, right here on their own YouTube channel. Just 2 years ago, 2 months after Trump announced his run for the presidency. Who else? Another research. This is just EIP all over again. And then Rotucci, the head of gay ops at USAID. They call her the director of DRG, not even the deputy. The head of the absolute worst, most pernicious part of all of USAID. And a research officer from the exact center run by Maria Stephan at the U.S. Institute of Peace, the Program on Nonviolent Action, the program on mob swarming in the streets. And notice, in order to hide their operations, they call it research. Research. They're all running operations, okay? I will do it again because until everybody in the world understands this, we're just going to have to do this. Burn this brain. Here's every time you hear someone say disinformation research or nonviolent research on nonviolence, applied research on nonviolence theory, they are using the Sam Bankman-Fried trick on why he called his trading desk Alameda Research. How he was trading cryptocurrencies, and yet was called a research firm. What did he say?
Even the name Alameda Research, I understand there's a backstory on why research is in the company.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of a quick backstory, which is just like, I don't know, it doesn't sound bad. It's like because I don't know, just like don't want to give banks reasons not to give us accounts, and sort of like, especially in 2017, if you named your company like we do cryptocurrency, Bitcoin arbitrage, multinational stuff. No one's going to give you a bank account if that's.
So if we called ourselves organizing riots in the fucking street to topple democratically elected governments, no one's going to give us USAID money. But if we say we are conducting research on how nonviolent action gives rise to democratic transitions, well, then here's your $350 million. I'm going to continue this clip.
Bad.
Company
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of.
research. I understand there's a backstory on why research is in the company.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of a quick backstory, which is just like, I don't know, it doesn't sound bad. It's like, because like, I don't know, just like don't want to give banks reasons not to give us accounts. And sort of like, especially in 2017, if you named your company like, we do cryptocurrency, Bitcoin arbitrage, multinational stuff, no one's going to give you a bank account if that's your company name. Among other things, a terrible company name. But also, they're just going to be like, oh, geez. Yeah, no, we've been warned about companies with this name. Like, you're going to have to go through the enhanced process, and I don't want to bother with that right now. It's almost lunchtime. So, but everyone wants to serve a research institute.
There it is. Everyone wants to serve a research institute. So every time you see, again, the bigger the front, the bigger the back. All right? Just remember that. The bigger the front, the bigger the back. When you see this phrase, when you see the head of the most insane, psycho, aggressive, regime toppling, riot organizing side of the Central Intelligence Agency, USAID, teamed up with not one, not two, but three different professional researchers on nonviolent action. Also, the ambassador, so the head of statecraft. These people will be worse. These people will be more aggressive operators than someone who started something called Down with the Government. If they're a research officer, they're probably doing shit way worse. They are manipulating all of the pawns on the board. They are networking, liaising, bribing, funding, burning documents. But they are all working together. Horizons Project operates domestically. And it's working directly with USAID's most psycho regime change group and the U.S. Institute of Peace most psycho mob, professional forming mobs in the streets group. And the Horizons Project operates at home. About us. The Horizons Project history has shown that there's democratic decline and there's a diverse ecosystem of actors needed to protect democracy. The Horizons Project recognizes the urgency for this kind of move to come together now in the United States. And here they are, a program partner of USAID and the U.S. Institute of Peace. And not only that, they're mob formation programs. So this is that network. Direct tie. I got to just make a note of this. Direct tie. Maria Stefan, Horizons. Tucci. USAID, DRG. U.S. Nonviolent Action. Yeah. Eastern Europe. CEE. Georgetown, of course. It's so predictable. Board of directors right here. Now, all this says she's director at DRG. Number one. So insane. What does this thing do? This is Central and Eastern Europe. Research. It's so predictable. So, oh yeah, I did want to hit this description. Going back to the video here. Okay, so this is nonviolent action during democratic. So it says, a reflection on recent political transitions in Armenia and Tunisia. In recent years, CIA campaigns to overthrow governments have won major victories across the globe. But after those initial victories are won, peaceful activists face a deceptively difficult question. What happens next? So not peaceful activists. These are mobs in the street, throwing Molotov cocktails in police cars, leaving the entire parliament on fire ablaze, like in 2014 Ukraine. What happens next? Transitional periods come with their own challenges, including drop-offs in popular mobilization, meaning harder to get people to take to the streets. Opposition fragmentation, because they no longer have a government to overthrow because they already overthrew it. So now they're left splitting the spoils with each other, and they find out, they're reminded how much they actually hate each other. And so they begin to fragment, and elite-led counter-revolutions. Remember, this is the counter coup. Of course, they have to say elite-led counter-revolutions. Oh no, you're not the elite people who led the revolutions. Fucking USAID director, ambassador, US government agency. No. Yours was organic, spontaneous, but theirs were elite-led, sponsored by some shady network. You notice how they need to do this? Every step of the way. Every lie has to stack on top of it, so that every word has to be completely consistent with this total brainwashing attempt to completely invert reality and make the other side seem like they're doing what these people are actually doing, which is an elite-led revolution and usually a spontaneous, organic counter-revolution, because you install the fucking puppet dictator with elites like Victoria Nuland and Jeff Pyatt in Ukraine. These challenges are by no means insurmountable, but if left unaddressed, they can undermine progress and ultimately reverse promising transitions to democracy. So this is basically like, after we've done the thing, this strategy,
civic renewal,
after we've turned all these 10,000 groups together into a whip, and we've overthrown the government in a mostly peaceful burning of the Capitol building and seizing of the government, and we install a new potato as president, potato-brained idiot, a Joe Biden 2.0 as a drunk skunk like Kamala Harris. Well, then it falls to infighting. Then we're not going to, organize this power against our own puppet. How do we exert pressure on the puppet government if it starts to not do what we want? So this is what they're going to trade strategies about here. All right. So, all right. I did want to get back to this Freedom Trainers thing because it's connected. Because the Horizons Project is like associated with this Freedom Trainers thing. And this is what we were starting to do last time. I know we're running out of time here. We're at 3 hours, 20 minutes. The non-cooperation library. And I think we saw a lot of these same slides being used literally in that presentation. I think they probably used Freedom Trainers for the Generate Democracy thing. Okay, so I think we covered non-cooperation 101 in the last stream. 1 million rising, strategic non-cooperation. Okay, let's see this. Session 1, The moment and your mission. Relax, don't do it. All right, let's check this out. Wow, this is an hour. Wow, it's indivisible. So Freedom Trainers, which runs this non-cooperation library. Sorry, it's just the browser that I'm in. We went over this. See, look, they use the same slides. The stickies, authoritarianism, play so sticky. Like this whole thing. They literally, it's the same. They're just using the Freedom Trainer thing. Okay, so we covered this. Resist list at Blue Sky. Okay. Bring down dictator. Oh my God. The Freedom Trainers literally use censorship industry annotated episode number 4. Let's go Serbia. There's a repressive government under the leadership of Slobodan Milosevic. A decentralized group called Otpor is forming. Decentralized? It was centralized by the fucking CIA. It was centralized by the State Department and the U.S. Institute of Peace and USAID, who gave Otpor $72 million in cash, as we covered. And they literally play the dictator we fucking memed on. And this is the Horizons Project and Freedom Trainers training manual for how to bring about a CIA-backed revolution like we did in Serbia in 1999 to overthrow Donald Trump in 2025. How we forced Pinochet out of office. How we keep testing the boundaries. One of the reasons political space gets smaller is because people self-censor. That's why we need to constantly push the boundaries. Add a slide about free DC or structured organizing model. I guess this is a draft that we're looking at. Add a slide about free DC. Okay, so Freedom Trainers is obviously involved in free DC. I've seen signs for this. Sure, it's like some, USAID regime change network, free DC from autocracy under Trump. Okay, let's see. Example, do not obey in advance. Do not obey what? The fucking law? Take up space, organize again. Have a high risk tolerance. Get arrested. Serbia. Yeah, all this shit was literally coordinated by the U.S. ambassador, CIA operations directorate, the U.S. Institute of Peace, nonviolent action folks. Okay, like we saw these slides in not just last week, but in the Gene Sharp shit. Making attacks backfire, making Tesla stock plummet. How can we make ICE escalation backfire? Interpret the event as an injustice. Reframe. Hassle lines. What's a hassle line? Oh yeah, we saw this. How do you like turn someone in the military? Okay, I think we went through all these. All right, my energy is kind of fading here. And it's like a little after 1 a.m. and I want to be able to clip some of this stuff. Worker strikes, jury participation, nullified juries. Oh my God. So you know that they're training this to let James Comey off. Wow. Look at this. Holy shit. Whoa, guys. Whoa. Whoa. What the fuck am I looking at? This is Maria Stephan and the USAID Network's group Freedom Trainers, which links to Indivisible. Indivisible does all this like training juries work. And they're teaching people to do jury nullification when the jury in a criminal trial gives a verdict of not guilty, even though they think a defendant has broken the law. What would move jurors to nullify juries? How would we inform people about this tactic? What would need to be in place to take this tactic to scale? Map out a cross-section of the justice system pillar to show how you'll move your target. They are actively plotting in their own slide deck to persuade juries to call people they think are criminals not guilty at scale. At scale. We need to subpoena every one of these jury education NGOs in Washington, D.C., in Northern Virginia, to show the materials that they're showing to the population that they're doing these jury trainings for. I could have swore I saw like jury training NGOs in the indivisible system, like the indivisible network system. But here you have this indivisible node where they're trying to get jury nullification at scale so that when their people break the law, a jury gives a verdict of not guilty, even when one of the network's criminals breaks a law and the jury thinks they did break the law, but because they're trained by the NGOs to do jury nullification, and when they're told that they have that tactic available, they will know in the back of their head, this is the same network who's giving me the money. If I do jury nullification, if I vote to make James Comey innocent, even though it's clear he did the crime, I'm probably going to get more NGO money from this network because they were the ones who were telling me, hey, you can just because you think he's guilty doesn't mean you need to say that he's guilty as a juror. This is incredible. I mean, this is an intent. This is like a conspiracy. A conspiracy to persuade juries to let criminals go, even when they know they've committed crimes. This feels like a crime. I can't imagine putting this in writing in a fucking slide deck presentation. Trainers, jury nullification at scale, protect Comey types. Comey, Brennan, Peter Strzok. I mean, can you imagine if, like, the Heritage Foundation was doing like jury nullification trainings so that if a jury thought that Donald Trump was guilty, that they would still vote not guilty as a jury? I feel like Merrick Garland would arrest everyone in the Heritage Foundation if they did this. It's just, this feels like a conspiracy to break some law. I just don't know what law that is. Yeah, I bet the Bar Association is involved too. Sandwich thrower acquitted. Yep. Oh my God, really? The sandwich thrower was acquitted? All right. Oh, that's... So this is like jury nullification. Was it a jury? Jurors deliberated for 7 hours. Yeah, this is an example of that. Let's see. ChatGPT. Does the Indivisible network of NGOs do any work around juror education and training for people on juries in and around Washington, D.C.? Sure, I've seen this. I bet you they're laundering it in there. This is the Invisible Network right here that we're seeing, teaching people. The Juror Project. Free DC. Is it through that? I'm sure that I've seen these. Maybe it's not indivisible. Maybe it's like local advocacy. The Juror Project? Juror Project. Okay, an Illinois Indivisible affiliate hosting an Informed Juror Project. Jury nullification training? What the fuck? So George Soros is indivisible. 2/3 of their funding comes from the Soros Foundation. So you have indivisible training jury nullification. I bet you the Informed Juror Project just does this everywhere in every major city. Juror nullification training. Are these people getting paid for this training? Training people how to nullify juries? That even when someone has committed a crime, you should lie to the court and say you don't think they're guilty of committing the crime, even if you believe they've committed every element of it? This feels like some sort of conspiracy to commit fraud or a conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding. I feel like every single jury nullification training should be subpoenaed immediately by the FBI. Jury nullification is like supposed to like happen whenever it does. Like it's never really supposed to be jury nullification. Like the jury is still supposed to like go through the act of thinking of like pretending that the person didn't do it. You know, when there was jury nullification of O.J. Simpson, they went through the act of like pretending that O.J. didn't kill his wife. I mean, everyone knew like the reason that they said not guilty, but to be trained just to let people off, even when you believe that this is a conspiracy to rig the jury. And this is indivisible. You know exactly who indivisible will tell these people to indict no matter what, even if they didn't do anything, and to let off no matter what, even if they committed homicide in broad daylight. Holy shit, this is huge. This jury nullification thing, this feels immediately actionable. All right, we are at 3 hours and 39 minutes. I want to be able to clip this and put this shit up. Holy fuck. All right, well, that was a fun one tonight, guys. Let me... Oh, my God. Oh, my God. All right. Let's... All right. Thank you all for joining me tonight. I think we're going to do the next stream in 2 days. I think on Wednesday, we're going to stream it back up. Keep going on this. We may actually do something completely different because it's a little bit heavy. And there's a lot of like fun stuff that's really cool and tangentially related, but a little bit lighter than tonight. I don't know. I'll decide what I'm in the mood for. But I want to take some time tomorrow to clip a bunch of our past streams because there's a ton of amazing shit we've put out in the past like 2 months that I've just not gotten a chance to even mine for clips. So I'd like to do that tomorrow, but I will see you stream likely Wednesday, possibly Thursday, but I'm going to shoot for Wednesday night around this time, 9:30ish. Until then, good night, Godspeed. I will see you on the internet.